Hey, it's Trees. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hello, welcome. Thanks for stopping by. In today's video, I'm going to be talking to you guys about my OCD. Hi, I have OCD. This was a recent discovery in 2021. All information in this video comes from therapy, my lived experiences, and extensive research on the subject. I'm in no way an expert, so definitely talk to a licensed mental health clinician, do your own research, and talk to someone. OCD is basically when you have unwanted thoughts, ideas, or sensations, obsessions, that make you feel driven to do something repetitively. These unwanted sensations can interfere with daily life, such as excessive hand washing, checking on things, cleaning things, etc. So part of the reason why I wanted to destigmatize OCD is because people just use OCD as regular part of their vocabulary. Oh my god, I'm super OCD about keeping my car clean. Oh my god, no, my makeup has to be perfect, like I'm super OCD about it. People say things like that all the time. It's kind of like how people throw around PTSD, or how lately people have been misusing like disassociating, and people forget that these are actual trauma responses and disorders that we have to deal with on the regular. There's a lot of really stupid t-shirts that I'll put over here. Whoa. So I wanted to talk about my experience with you guys. My history with OCD goes as far back to 3rd grade. I had been transitioning into a new school where I was the only new kid. I'm codependent, so I felt a pressure to keep the peace at home. So my brain and my body were constantly fighting in survival mode, thus became my coping mechanisms. I suffer from body-focused repetitive behavioral disorders, which are basically forms of self-mutilation. I have self-soothing, self-grooming compulsions. Sometimes I don't even realize I've been doing these actions as long as I have. Other times I have a little voice inside my head yelling at me to stop, and I just can't. So the first one I want to talk about with you guys is nail biting. Right now, you cannot tell I bite my nails because I got them done at the salon, but I'm gonna insert some photos here where you guys can see examples of what my nails actually look like. 1, 2, 3, 4. Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody has those days. This is really embarrassing for me because people have pointed this out many times. I have had strangers at gas stations, at restaurants. I have had dates where people point it out or will try and like be my therapist, and I'm like, I just met you. So that can be really humiliating, but I'm sharing it because I really just want to be as open and honest with you guys as I can. I'll be honest, yeah, it is embarrassing. People sometimes want to help you and they'll tell you, stop biting your nails. And while I do appreciate that, and of course, if you also suffer from nail biting, you may also relate that. Thank you very much, friend, for looking out for me, for calling me out on the behavior. But what people don't realize, or what studies show, is that actually that makes the shame and guilt associated with the disorder that stems from shame and guilt in the first place. You're like, oh, I should be stopping, but then the voice inside your head is now doubled by that person that told you. So then that compulsion, that urge to want to like fix it, is only harder to resist. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about this later. But the second body-focused repetitive behavioral disorder that I suffer from is Trichotillomania, which is basically hair pulling. Though I started biting my nails at 3rd grade, I have memories of beginning hair pulling as far back as like even 1st. I remember laying in my mom's bed and watching TV with her and doing this sensation to her. And she would gently like pull my hand away and like tell me to stop and be like, ow, Therese, it hurts. But I guess because that sensation felt so soothing, I just began doing it on myself, and it only got worse as I got older. So the positive thing about my trichotillomania is that it's not very noticeable to people. It's something I can very easily hide. Why? Because first of all, I have very thick hair, and I'm pretty good at makeup. So I'm able to conceal these things very easily. But I'm gonna insert some photos of bald spots in my eyebrows, times that my eyebrows have been so sparse that I don't even want to leave the house. It's alright, okay. I'm so much. I had a relapse the other day with my eyebrows, and that's sucked because I worked so hard to grow them out and get them this nice, lovely, luscious shape. But when you're in that frenzy, you just can't stop. But where I also pull is in my bangs. So right now, I'm Hannah Montana. Right now, you maybe can't tell very much, but I'm gonna get close to the camera. Hi. This area right here is like a very common spot, and even these bangs right here are very, very short and sparse. The last body focus repetitive behavioral disorder that I infrequently struggle with, but is still very much there, is dermatillomania. Dermatillomania is basically a skin picking disorder. So it's basically you'll pick at your face so much so that you can create like scars and bruises. Like, I don't want to get too much into the different ways that people suffer from dermatillomania since it is such a big umbrella term. So I'm going to link some videos down below so you guys can check them out for yourself. Trigger warning. The cartoons are a little graphic. I know they're cartoons, but they can be uncomfortable to watch because they're based on real life and genuine trauma that people like struggle with. So I just feel like I should say that. But yeah, dermatillomania is something that I don't really struggle with as often, but if I'm actively trying to avoid the other two, I will do that. I will pick out a microscopic pimple and basically create like a hole in my face. Moving on. The stigma with OCD is that everything has to be perfect. And while that may be true in some ways, it's not maybe the way you think. See, having ripped, brittle, broken, sometimes bleeding cuticles and nails is in no way the idea of a perfect fingernail. But the process of needing the nail to be perfect is a need for control and comfort. My case of OCD is an extreme need for order, symmetry, and precision. The insatiable need to rub and pull eyebrow hairs out and parts of your bangs, only to discover that you've just created tiny nests on the floor, or eyebrow confetti, or tiny bald spots. It's obviously not perfect, but the feeling of tangling and combing through the hair, kind of like brushing it, can feel really tension relieving and soothing. And it's something that began at a really young age, so it's familiar and comforting. OCD can also fall into procrastination. OCD is fueled by uncertainty, aversion, and repetition. It starts when you experience anxiety related to an uncertain threat, like illness or death. You perform an action intended to hold the threat at bay, and when that action doesn't completely eliminate your feared outcome with 100% certainty, you repeat it until it becomes a compulsive ritual. When you're procrastinating, you're faced with a task that you desperately want to avoid, even if that's something you enjoy doing. So you basically start doing another task and you perform that activity instead. And when that activity's over and you find yourself back to where you started, you start going through a whole other cycle to just keep putting it off longer. For example, there are tasks that I actually enjoy doing, like making a YouTube video, or writing something up, or getting ready for an event. But sometimes that task can feel so overwhelming because I want it to be perfect that I will keep procrastinating on it, and I'll do something else, like sitting there for what feels like 2 minutes but is actually like 30-40 minutes pulling my hair out and like just on my phone. Focusing on the thing that you can control in the moment is self-soothing because the brain is actively avoiding pain. But when we avoid things for too long and we keep up with that behavior, it can be extremely harmful, especially when we know it's bad for us and we can't stop. It creates an even worse feeling than the one we were initially avoiding. Does that make sense? I hope so. The biggest things surrounding this are shame and guilt. Finding a label for what I've dealt with my entire life was so comforting to me because I felt like I wasn't alone and I finally felt seen. But definitely, it didn't solve the issue. The hardest thing I would have to say is relapsing and finding the will to start over. Because the shame and guilt that you're already experiencing only doubles when you see the effects it's taken on your body. when you see those bald spots, when you see all the hair that fell onto your chest, when you see like your cuticles are torn apart or your nails hurt, you can't touch things or hold things or open a water bottle or washing your hair, like little everyday tasks are so much harder because you now have to have that constant reminder that you failed. And that really fucking sucks. It's just this deep disappointment in yourself because you know you've gone like 53 days sober. You know that your nails have been long enough to see white tips. You know that you've gone long enough to see your eyebrows so healthy and bushy and nice. Currently, there's makeup in them, but like there are bald spots. Believe me, like yeah, unlearning can be really challenging. But intentionally tracking triggers and going to therapy, these things can be nipped in the bud. Even if I cannot tell you I'm 100% clean from these body repetitive behavioral disorders, I have only made progress. The reason I can't call myself a success story yet is just because of how debilitating it can be. These things are addictions, which stem from overwhelming thoughts, some that may not even be at your forefront. They can be deep inside your subconscious, and it takes a serious effort to really look inside and find the root of the problem. That being said, it may not necessarily help you to get a fidget spinner or a fidget cube because it's just not the same sensation. There are other things though. I want to talk to you guys about the habit replacement loop. Maybe you've heard of it, maybe you haven't, but I'm going to post the photo here. It's basically when you have the impulse to do something that may not necessarily be healthy, you replace it with a different thing that maybe gives you the same sensory input or is the opposite of what you were doing, so that you can basically train your brain that every time you start feeling those overwhelming, uncertain triggers, you do something else. So I want to talk to you guys a little bit about what helps me. For me, I noticed that I hold energy in my hands. The feeling of rubbing is soothing for me. So what I noticed helps me is using a lavender lotion or lavender cuticle oil. It doesn't have to be lavender, I just like lavender. But doing that, that's me using the habit replacement loop. So whenever I feel an urge to want to like rub my teeth against my cuticle or my nail bed and basically like tear at it, or get my fingers and like pick at it, you know, I'm actively doing something instead to make my fingers feel perfect in a healthier way, and it's so much better for you. Definitely consistency and routine. It doesn't stop if you do it for just a day or just one time. It has to be every single time you have that urge. Something that's also helped me a ton is painting my nails or getting my nails done. Now, when I paint my natural nails, I know that I'm in danger zone because the second I have a chip, it bothers me. And then I want to either peel away all the rest of the nail polish or put my fingers in my mouth and take it off with my teeth. And it's basically giving myself a new toy, and it's disgusting. So getting my nails done, like I just did dip, they're growing out, and it's satisfying for me to see the growth underneath them, even though like many people don't like that, but like that feels nice. I can see progress and I know they're growing underneath there. Another trigger is immediately one nail comes off, oh my god, the rest have to come off. Like it'll drive me fucking insane. I feel like everyone can see my hands. It's a terrible feeling. So find a good nail tech that won't make you feel bad about your hands, because it has happened to me far too many times where old Cuban ladies are talking shit about me and then I feel awful and I feel the need to justify myself whenever I go to the nail salon, and I have to tell them about my anxiety. I have to tell them about like, yeah, like it's just really hard for me to go and get my nails done because like I'm just embarrassed, like please be nice to me. And I don't want to do the whole charade. I don't want to fucking do it. Just do my fucking nails and make me look hot. Whew, I have a lot of feelings about this. Anyway, another thing that's helped me a lot, this is not sponsored, but I just want to share, is the I Am Sober app. This app is free on the App Store. You can get it for Apple or Android, and it's awesome. You can put up to 3 addictions. You can customize it your own way. You pledge every day, I will stay sober. And it gives you motivational quotes. You can put a photo. So for me, I have a really nasty picture of my nail. Warning, it's gonna get really ugly really bad in 3, 2, 1. Okay, you saw it. That's what I look at, so that when I'm pledging, I'm like, okay, that's how bad I can get. I don't want that to happen to me. Making an affirmation that I won't bite today. Then you can also see your streak, so it'll tell you you're 20 days sober. It'll even tell you like you are 1 hour sober, and even if it's just an hour, it feels good to know, okay, I went that long without doing that. So I really recommend this app. It gives you little prizes. It has a community page where you can see other people that are in that same addiction and that are also at that same amount of time that you've reached. So you can all celebrate each other and like each other's little comments. I personally didn't really use the community page that much. I used it more just like for myself. It's up to you. I was a part of the Bliss nail support group on Facebook, and that one was nice for a while. I haven't been on it much lately, but there was a time in my life that helped me. So if you want a community, these are options for you. For eyebrows, something that definitely helps me, putting Vaseline on my eyebrows or putting eyebrow growth serum. So Benefit has one, I'll link it down below. When I want to pull my hair, I sometimes will put on a headband, like those elastic headbands. Something that my therapist told me to get is, so basically whenever I feel like pulling my hair, if I don't have the headband handy or it's not enough, having something with a similar sensation, like we talked about with the habit replacement loop, is great. So I have this blanket and the ends have these frayed edges, which basically provide that same sensation that you would do to your hair. And it's awesome because you're not actually hurting yourself and it gives you that sensory input. So why did I make this video? Well, number one, I told you guys I wanted to destigmatize these things. I've been fortunate enough to be influenced by YouTubers like Arden Rose and Colleen Ballinger, who've talked about their Trichotillomania and Dermatillomania, and it feels really nice to be seen by somebody in a platform that not only do I admire these women, I think they're strong, I think they're talented artists, they seem like they have their normal, successful lives, but they also suffer from these things that I do. So I thought that if I could shed a light on this and maybe open up a community. If you have things like this and you want someone to talk to about it, you want encouragement or anything, you know you have a safe space here. I also wanted a call to action for myself. I want to ask for accountability. If you are a friend of mine and you struggle with these things, let's check in on each other. Let's see how we're doing with those addictions. Maybe even doing a pledge streak together. Let's talk about it. It's hard enough going through this alone. I'm grateful for certain friends of mine that I know struggle with certain things of these, and they'll send me updates of their nails sometimes, and I feel so seen. I feel so warm that they felt like they could share it with me, and I'll send them updates too sometimes, and it feels really nice. Anyway guys, let's track our triggers, let's write down the patterns, let's build healthier habits to replace these addictions. As Glennon Doyle said, we can do hard things. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you like this video if you learned something new, if you felt seen, if you just want to show some support and encouragement to homegirl. I really appreciate it. And if you're not subscribed yet, even if you don't use YouTube much, just subscribe to my channel, please. It really helps me out. If you like what you see on my channel, you can definitely support me on Patreon. For just $3 a month, you could be a little treat. I would really appreciate it. So, thank you guys.